everybody on YouTube? I'm Owen H. Welcome to another Christmas special of What's It Worth, where I'm actually going to be reviewing two movies in one episode. Both based on the same story, Christmas Carol and Scrooge. Both films, based on Charles Dickens' classic novel, tells the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, a miserable, greedy old man who is visited by three spirits who show him his past, present, and future, compelling him to make a big change in his life. Even though both versions are based on the same story, they both contrast in their own way, and I'm about to go over the difference between both stories. In the original 1938 Turner Classics version, they kind of made the mistake of cutting straight to the point. And when they did that, you're cutting out the vital information that actually explains Scrooge. And when they kind of cut out all those vital details, the film kind of comes off a little dull, and you don't get so much of an emotional reaction out of the story. Whereas in the 50s version, Scrooge, they elaborated so much details about Scrooge's past going on that it fully explains and answers all the questions as to why he is the way he is. And there were moments where you sympathized with Scrooge, like back in his younger years, and you actually felt sorry for him. And when he becomes this greedy, money-grubbing con artist who's just looking to make more money in his adult life, that's when you really feel repulsed by his character, and you just can't stomach the guy. Now, another contrast between both versions would be the actors in this film, especially with Scrooge. In the 1938 version, he was a little hard for me to get an emotional reaction out of, because, I mean, I bet the guy is a really good actor. They put him under a lot of makeup. They made him as this grouchy old guy, but it felt like he was being obvious about being this greedy, grumpy old man who was just never happy, period. Whereas the actor who played as him, Alistair Sim, his portrayal of Scrooge was much better, because when they explained him in better detail and you see how he is, it was like you get a much better reaction out of him in that version. Plus, he was more convincing as this greedy D-bag of an accountant than the previous version. And his portrayal was so much better. And when he's forced to see other parts of his past, like his sister's death, and then, of course, how he was crushed because of Tiny Tim's condition, it was so soul-crushing that it was like, in how he pulls it off and how they did it, it was like it really hit you where you live, and you got an actual emotional reaction out of that version of the film. And the same went with the spirit of his work partner who's in chains. In the 1938 version, he was like, oh, and he was just quoting whatever. I mean, he kind of came off a little dull. I did remember seeing him in another film, which I kind of liked him better in that than... Oh yeah, now it just clicked who that guy is in the 38 version. He's Waverly from the Man from U.N.C.L.E. TV series. That's where I recognize him. I mean, it was like, the guy's a pretty good actor, but his portrayal of that particular character was like, I don't know. I didn't get too much out of him. Now, in the 1950s version, when you see the same partner but a different actor, you get a whole different reaction out of his performance. He's supposed to be a tortured spirit that because of the shackles and the heavy weights that he forged over the years, he's actually suffering and he's in pain even after death. And he's trying to convince Scrooge to change his ways. How that was done in the 50s version was so much better than in the 1938 version, the Turner Classics version. Because he was not only in, like, perpetual agony, but he was emotionally distraught, and he was trying to force and stress upon Scrooge that that's the kind of fate that's awaiting him down the road, and he has to change his ways, and he's trying. When it came to the characters, the three spirits, I had mixed feelings about them. Now, the spirit of, was it the Ghost of Christmas Past? Now, I like both of them for different reasons. The 38 version, the Turner Classics version, she was someone who you could actually buy into as this benevolent spirit that's just trying to, she's full of kindness and understanding, and she tries to ease you into the past and let you see where your whole life just kind of went wrong. She was kind of alluring. Where in the 58 version, yes, it was done by a guy, but it delves into more detail where sometimes he has to try and show you by force the darker aspects of your past. With the Ghosts of Christmas Present, I like both versions of him for different reasons. In the Turner Classics version, he was kind of like this jolly, giant, Gimli, Santa Claus, Jesus, who he was so full of delight, and sometimes when he shows these kind of stern at the fact that Scrooge just fired one of his men for, just for a snowball fight, he gives him this look like, yeah, that's what you did, shame on you. Now they expanded it in the 50s version where he shows him the two homeless, poor, starving kids under his robe. And he says, beware of these two. And when he echoes one thing that Scrooge says, which is, are there no prisons? Are there no workshops? And how it becomes so thunderous in Scrooge's mind. It was like, that was another powerful moment that I felt like they should have put that in the Turner Classics version. And of course there is the Ghost of Christmas Future, or Death as we all know him as. Even though he had no lines, his body language was so much better in the 50s version than in the Turner Classics version. In the Turner Classics version, he was just under a ridiculously huge robe, and hasn't really shown too much. Whereas in the 50s version, when you actually see his hands stopping Scrooge for a moment, it was like, and how still it was very, I would say it was very eerie at how still and how calm and how immovable the guy is, until he would like turn his body and point Scrooge in a certain direction. And of course with the character of Tiny Tim, now the kid was better in the Turner Classics version, but I felt like when it came to his future and how he will not survive the next Christmas, it was much more heartbreaking in the 50s version than in the Turner Classics version. Now, you remember the Clark? In the Turner Classics version, you would look at the guy and go, why does he look so familiar? That guy in the Turner Classics version was the judge in Miracle on 34th Street, which I'll be reviewing eventually. Now, that guy, it was like, he was pretty good in that film. I liked him in that. But I felt like with the 50s version, when he's sorrowful over Tiny Tim's death, it was so much more heartbreaking, and you feel the emotional tenderness. Now, with the Turner Classics version of the Clark, it showed that the guy was going to hold up his Christmas spirit And he's not going to let the fact that he just got fired ruin Christmas for not just for him, but also for his entire family. And he went out of his way to get a goose, a bunch of chestnuts, and all this like other delights, so his family had something like delicious and awesome for Christmas. And he was emphasizing like that's the whole point of Christmas. You could be piss poor broke, and it's like it has nothing to do with presents and all that stuff. It's just about being together and being happy and grateful and joyous. And it's like nowadays, yes, it's very difficult to see that, but it sends one of the most powerful messages for Christmas. Like that's what it's all about. And the family I thought was a little bit better, more energetic in the Turner Classics version than in the 50s version. Now, for the ending of both movies, even though they're slightly different, they're both good in their own way. Especially when Scrooge, when he returns to his own bed and realizes that nothing has really happened, he's not dead, and he's back in the real world, and he finally found his redemption point. I liked both versions of the ending, regardless that they were slightly different, because the fact the guy was jumping for joy and he finally had his Christmas spirit come back, they're both beneficial in their own way. Okay, so where do I rank both of these movies? For Scrooge, I'm going to say full price, and with the Turner Classics A Christmas Carol, I'm going to rank it as almost full price. So, okay. So, I'm done reviewing both versions of A Christmas Carol. So, I'm sure one of you probably have some version that you really like. Put it in the comments down below. Which Christmas Carol do you like the most? Please subscribe. So, until next time, I'm Owen H. Happy Holidays!